Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. If you're watching on YouTube, you see we've got somebody sitting next to me today. Welcome back. Now a regular on the show, Jordan at Zips Cards. Jordan, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me. I am back.
Yeah. It's like Saturday Night Live, right? You need the five timers quote or something.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So this is dropping New Year's Day. So happy New Year's to you and all the listeners out there.
Yep. Happy New Year's, where we could have all these resolutions, some card resolutions, and all that, huh?
Yeah. Usually resolutions, really, aren't they for like things that you need to fix? Like you want to fix in your life, right? So when you think about New Year's resolutions, right? It's always I want to lose weight, I want to quit
Yep.
smoking, I want to stop this or stop that. So I don't know. I just don't see a resolution with cards unless, you plan on doing less of it or stopping it. So
Yeah, I think looking back to last year, I think I had some resolutions and cards that came true for the most part, But I definitely think there are things people in cards could make resolutions for.
yeah,
I'm sure I wouldn't be the only one speaking for them too.
And like all the other resolutions, they'd be busted in a week or two.
Yeah.
I'd be back to all my old habits.
I'm not gonna rip. Yeah.
And no breaks. Forget about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I get the Patriots?
Yep.
Are they available?
Drake May's got to be better than Mac Jones.
Yeah. So I asked you to come on. I'm bringing you on here. It's like the year-end episode. This is episode 48. So one more episode to go. The next episode will be the season finale of season 5. So it kind of lines up almost perfectly, right? To get to bring you on and just kind of a review of the year and looking forward, to next year. So and I think back to last January, the beginning of this year of 2024, like what I was doing mentally. I was on the hunt for as many rookie quarterbacks, right? Graded in my mind. I'm preparing to go to the National and be set up in a booth. And I'm starting to collect all these cards that I'm going to bring and my journey, and like every other journey, right? No matter how well you plan it, you don't foresee things that are going to happen, and things come up all the time. But that whole plan was somewhat derailed.
Sure.
So when you think back to last January, and I know you were just a brand new dad.
Yep.
I mean, you just had your son. So when you think back to last January and what you were planning for the year, how did the year go? What you were expecting?
So, I think having my son changed perspective on a lot of things. And I really made sure more so than I ever had in the prior years being in the hobby and active, I made decisions that made sense. Like if it didn't make sense, I wouldn't do it. There are a lot of times I felt that I had just like forced deals to happen, like meaning that I would like overpay on a lot of things. And this is really coming from when I say make sense, just to resell things. Like if I'm going to be honest, like that's I have a very I don't really talk about like my PC because it's not like huge and crazy and all that. Like I'd say like 95% of what I do in the hobby is reselling. And it's mainly because I also use it as like a side income. Honestly, I really do. But like my PC is like I have Ted Williams autographed like items. That's what I like.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the stuff that comes around. Like, there's nothing that it's really hard for me to resonate to something that I'm like, this is an item I want for like ever. But every once in a while, I come around those items. I really do. Like, a couple of years ago, the top stadium club, there's a Ted Williams card, and it was when he was in his fighter jet pilot uniform, because he left in the middle of his career to literally go be a fighter pilot in World War II. Like, what a badass. And then he comes back and hits over 400 for the seat. Like, like that's the stuff that I collect. And it's not like, like you see my Instagram of what I buy and sell, and it's not that, but it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost good. I say it's when I jumped back into the hobby, I was PCing and buying and selling all the same stuff, and it was just getting to a point where I was like, okay, I have to separate PC and what I'm doing. It has to be, two different things, and that helped me tremendously. And I kind of hear what you're saying too, like what your PC with Ted Williams, like you're always on the hunt for that stuff, but this is you're in this really buying and selling and kind of a side hustle that is not set up like around I'm going out to fill my PC as well
Right.
as do this. Yeah.
And with that being said, though, I do have like I have an idea of like longer term PC things that I would like to hold with the intent of things. Like, there's one project that I have in mind that I haven't really started just yet, but I'm kind of looking at how it would be, that I'll talk about later. It's no need to talk about it now, but and then also it's like, I want to make sure that the decisions I'm making now, especially being a new dad, like that's the big part of this, I guess, to what I'm trying to get to, is like, being a new dad, like, I want to make sure that what I'm doing in all facets of my life, there's a purpose to what I'm doing, where I'm not just I'm up late night on Whatnot buying hobby boxes to rip like a degen, right? Like, or if I do decide to do that, it's at a point where I've gone so far up financially in the reselling that if I do that, it's a drop in the bucket, right? Like, that's really what it comes down to. So, and when it comes to people's PCs, like for me, like, to have the PC that I would truly desire, I would need a lot more zeros on my salary, like, truthfully, for the things that I would want to keep and hold on to, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and isn't that always the way, right? The stuff
Sure,
that we really like is
the champagne taste in the beer pockets, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So as we get into, as we got closer last year to the Nationals, we got later in the spring, I got bad news knowing that, they switched things up at the National, and I wasn't going to be set up there, but then I was going to be walking the show, so I had a ton of inventory that was built to be sold at the National. And then I started doing other things to move that inventory, and I called an audible. I set up at the SoCo Expo out there, and did some other things that what I could, to try to move a lot of this inventory that I had. So for you, I know the year before you were at the National, but last year you didn't go to the National. So as we kind of went into the summer and we were getting into football, you were back in kind of full swing after taking a break after your son.
Yeah.
You were back in.
Yep.
What did that period look like for you at that time?
For me, it was a lot more online and a lot less shows. And when I was deciding, like, the things I was doing to have a purpose, a lot of that comes to, where can you easily cut costs, right? And I know you've talked about this a ton of times, and you truly, and I love going to shows too, don't get me wrong, it's really fun, but like, having a newborn, like, I don't want to spend my weekends at, like, in a VFW or even at a nice venue. Like, when I could be with my
Don't
family.
be putting down the VFWs. Don't be talking down about them.
I still attend. I still attend, and I'm in and out of there, and I'm buying stuff. I love some of the local VFW shows. But what I'm saying is like, it's just got to make sense. And then like sometimes going to shows, like at least financially, it doesn't make sense. And I'm sure you've been there. Like I think a lot of people have, even as an attendee sometimes, right? Which it's way less risk if the show doesn't make sense as an attendee. But like if you go to one of these usually the big shows are going to be good. But like if you go to one of these big shows and you don't have the right inventory, you could just throw some money down the drain. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So for me, it was buying a lot of collections that I would find through connections. And then, with that wholesaling process, like it's a lot, it is a lot of work, but the cost is not like the cost is so low and the upside so high that like I would go through collections, and if things could be graded, I would grade them and then get them consigned. And then if things weren't necessarily gradable, I would send them for consignment. And all of that was automated, and it was like, it became such a process that it was like passive for me. Like I had my process. I've made my processing part of this new, the way when I get a collection and I know how I'm going to process it and I know where it's going as I'm going through it. I'm like, oh, look at this for grading. Oh, this is going to this consignment. Oh, this is going to that consignor, et cetera.
Yeah. So you pretty much know exactly where, you have a plan to for where that's going as soon as you're receiving it. It's funny. I just wanted to jump back, and I find it amazing. I just find it absolutely amazing that people in the hobby today, like you, that have brand new, brand new babies, having a child and being able to stay even active in it. Because I think back my time, having kids, those kids were a full time, especially it just seemed like it was something. There was really never, and I don't know. I mean, I know the world's changed now, but I just don't remember a time where it was like, oh, this is some me time, and that's for you time. It was always just a together time. So, and when I knew you were having the baby, I was like, oh, I'm like,
Here goes Jordan.
yeah, he's gone. We won't hardly see him anymore. But you've really stayed really involved, almost really, like I'm doing the podcast, I'm getting out to shows, but what you're doing on your side, you're staying as busy, if not busier than me in the hobby, which is I just find truly amazing.
Honestly, it's like I just feel like with my son, it's just it's like just cut the bullshit out of whatever I'm doing. Like, and it's so much more efficient because I feel like it has to be, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not spending as much time in the hobby as I previously did, but it's so much more efficient and effective. Like everything I'm doing has a purpose. Like, and I think when people talk about like wanting to expand or do better, because like I think it's kind of silly to just say that this card stuff doesn't have to do with money. Like everything in the card space has to do with money. So like for me, knowing like when I'm buying something, 90% of the time, maybe even higher, I have an end goal of where that's going to be sold. And that's been a huge difference for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's important. That's super important. So we get into late summer, right? The fantasy football is getting ready to kick off. Real football, which is less important, it feels like, right? The real football is getting ready to kick off, getting to the end of summer. And I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're just still doing the same thing, right? Buying collections. I mean, we talk, not daily, but a few times a week. So I know what's going on with you.
Yeah.
I know you got, during that time you started taking a lot of cards and shipping them to one person. You may want to talk about that a little bit, having them graded and consigned immediately. So it was once you got it and sent it off, you were just collecting the money on the other end.
I know. Unfortunately, I don't have an affiliate link with PC Sports Cards, but I've referred a lot of people to PC Sports Cards at this time just because I think they do a great job, and I think they provide something. They provide an opportunity for people who don't have the capital to progress at a rapid rate, and I think you've seen that. And
Yeah.
you tried them out just to liquidate stuff, right? Like you haven't utilized them for their full services. Fair to say?
Fair to say. Yeah.
Okay. So like they have something which I think is great is um you can send cards through PC Sports Cards to get graded, and then once you know your grades pop and the bill comes, normally if you were just sending it yourself, it would charge your card. With PC Sports Cards, your balance in their account just goes negative, and you have the opportunity to pay that balance and get all your cards back, just like if you submitted them yourself, or you can directly convert them to consignment, and they'll go on their eBay to get sold. So if you want to churn and burn cards in order to level up, or if like say it's more of a pure hobbyist than I may be, right? Like say you have some PC cards in an order. Say you got like 2 PC cards and 10 cards total in the order. You can sell 8 of them and then leave those 2 out and get them shipped back. Just your account just has to go positive from the grading fees to then get shipped back to you. So it gives you an opportunity for liquidity, and it gives you an opportunity to pay for your own PC in a quicker way too. I think. So I use that a lot, like a lot. It was great. It was great because I know there are sometimes you're like, I know you're grading all these cards. If you want to sell them to me for a good deal, I can. And I'm like, just the rate that I'm getting, that I'm selling at, it wouldn't make sense to sell it off of eBay because, as a huge eBay seller, they also have better eBay rates on certain level, certain dollar amount of cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and I know you've done quite well with some of those cards. So
yeah, like I remember you didn't know, you were watching a Paige Becker's card that I had being sold, and you texted me, you're like, it went like double the last comp. And I'm like, no, Ken, that's the new comp. You know what I mean? Like I think that's another thing that's kind of nice is we're always, I shouldn't say we, not everyone, but like when a lot of people are transacting, it's always, what's the comp? What's the comp? What's the comp? I need to be below the comp, right?
Yep.
But when you're sending stuff at auction, you can make the new comp, and happens all the time. Like, and I know you've seen it, and you probably experienced it when you sent your stuff off for consignment, or at least it was stronger than what you had anticipated on some. But then
it was about average, but I didn't send anything that could have tilted the scales. There was nothing there that was, it was more, and I just talked about it on the last podcast. It was more of just, testing the waters, just getting a rapport with a company, trying them out, seeing how well it sells, how the payment works, and am I satisfied with everything, that type of thing. So I'm not gonna start out sending really high-end cards to somebody that I just don't know or I've never done business with. So I just wanted to try it out.
I actually have a good example about that situation too, because I just think it's important to like put out there is I had bought a Caitlin Clark autograph. It was like the Prodigal Playmakers. It was an insert autograph. And when I had bought it, a PSA 10 had sold for like $750 bucks. And so I was like $400 into the card or whatever. It was probably very strong for, to buy the raw card. By the time I graded it and sold, though, it ended up going for $1,500 on their auction. And but in between my sale and the previous, there wasn't one. So how would I have sold that to anyone for that much money?
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And those were some of the cards I sent. Some of these cards that sat in my case that they were pop ones, and there were no other sales on even when I bought them from people who graded the cards, right? So there was no public sales on them, and I had a feeling that the price was, and I'm going to make this up. I felt the price was $100 or $120, and people are like, well, there's no sales. Like I'll give you like $40 for it. Right. And I'd be like, no, I'm just gonna, and then they end up doing well because I just sent them out to bid. And, of course they were Josh Allen cards. So, they
good
were
timing.
Yeah, it was good. The timing was really good too. One thing I want to ask you on there, and somebody had said this, actually, two people had said this to me, but one person that I had a long conversation with at the Friday Night New Britain show um, said to me that he used to grade his cards and send them in, and then finally he said his grades were all like he could barely gem a card. So then he just started sending them off to somebody to who would prep them and a submitter submit the cards. And he said all his cards are coming back tens now. So I mean, I don't know what he was doing to prepare the cards to send them in, but do you find that you're getting more favorable grades having a group submitter grade your cards or versus when because I know you were doing it just like I was doing it. You were doing it yourself for a while before you started using them. Do you notice a difference with better grades, or do you feel it's about the same?
I feel it's about the same, but what I would also say to that too is I think it really depends on what you're sending for grading, right? Like, so if I buy a collection that's a lot of like MJ Kobe era stuff, I am not expecting those to have the same gem rate as if I was to buy 2023 Mosaic or 24 Mosaic. Like,
Mhm.
that matters. That, and I don't know who you talk to or what they're saying, but like for me, I'm not someone who's like really convinced on like pop control or I'm not. I'm personally not. But like especially with the stuff I'm sending, like you know what I mean? Like the stuff I'm sending, like no one's there's not big enough fish to care about the pop control for like like for real. Like
Yeah.
you guys do people really think people like anyone cares like what a quarterback silver prism, how many there are? Like I
Mhm.
don't think so. I think that's ridiculous. But when you get to like the high end stuff, I think anything's possible with all that
Mhm.
money. But do you follow, I don't know how you feel about what do you think about that?
Yeah, like I don't know. I've complained about PSA for almost every episode. I mean, people are probably tired of hearing me complain about PSA. But this one order, this 62 card order, out of that, I think 56 or 57 of those cards are those came from that WNBA collection I bought. They were 2000, 2001,
Right.
and it's been taking forever to grade. And I know that probably 50 of those cards that come back are probably going to be pop ones. But the cards were special. It wasn't like they were just a common card. They were either a refractor, they were numbered, there was something special. Maybe they were just a rookie card, and the cards were in such beautiful condition. I said, why wouldn't I send these off to grade?
Yeah.
And it's taken so long, and I'm almost thinking, and I could be completely wrong, I'm almost thinking it's taking so long for them to grade because people are like, how do we grade these cards? Like, there's really nothing to
There's
compare
no
them to.
basis. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think like a lot of this modern stuff, I compare, Rich Zwittlebug cards. So, him and I talk all the time, and it's almost a competition. We're sending PSA orders in, and we're comparing, and his stuff is going through and coming back, and my stuff hasn't even, gotten out of research and ID yet. But a lot of stuff he's selling is just all modern stuff. And I notice like when my modern stuff does get into the pipeline at PSA, it seems to go pretty quickly. They just have to get it in there. Once it gets into a grading, it usually goes pretty quick because I think they have so many other cards to compare it against. Like,
Yeah.
here's a 10 of that, and they're comparing it. But now, like with these cards, I could be completely wrong, but I have a feeling it's taking so long because there's nothing to compare them to that they actually and I know this is going to sound like a cheap shot, but it's really not. They actually have to grade just that card, that there's nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
So, you
I
know,
think we're talking human nature though. Like if you're seeing the same card 100 times a day plus, you're going to be more confident and sure of your decision that you're making. And I'm
yeah,
not trying to defend the PSA grader. Let me just say that. I'm just saying, like, if you see this 100 times,
Yeah.
you're gonna know what's good or bad about it, right? Like you're saying, if they're not seeing that card often, sure,
I know.
sure.
I have those two Brady's. I have the Brady Bowman, the rookie. I have PSA 8 and a BGS 8.5. And somebody was looking at them this week and they're like, "Oh, the centering is so good on these cards." And they're like looking at them, they're like, "Oh, I would crack them and send them." And I'm shaking my head. I'm thinking to myself, can you imagine how many of these cards that they, that especially these 2000 Bowman Brady's, right? That people are just continuously cracking out and sending back. That PSA just has to say to themselves, "Look, if this card looks average, this card's already probably been graded 3 times already. We're just going to give it the lowest that we possibly could." I couldn't imagine sending a PSA 8 or a BGS 8.5, to PSA and it coming back a 9, right? I would think it would be the opposite direction, that it would come back a 7 or just come back an 8 again.
Well, I can kind of speak on that with my my experiences buying collections. That's actually a pretty good dilemma you bring up. So I bought a Tim Duncan rookie. It was numbered to 100. It was a die cut. It was, I believe it was SP Authentic. I want to double check because it was SP Authentic. It was called Profiles 3. It was hand numbered to 100. And I bought this, and I'm looking at the pop report, and there's not a lot. And it was a high end card. So, or not, it wasn't. I guess to me it was a high end card, but it got a 9, which is like a huge grade for it, and I was really surprised it got a 9. Kind of from what you were saying there, is like they don't see this all the time.
Well, they don't see that card, especially it was hand numbered. But
Yeah,
I would think, the 2000, Bowman Brady, that it, I'm sure that those cards are coming through there on a daily basis. I'm sure they probably,
yeah,
those cards,
like
and
Fleer Jordans.
yeah, they have to know that these cards, people are just cracking these out, and I'm sure it's a lot like with the Mahomes rookie cards too, like the red yellows and the optics, and that people are like, and we see it at the show. People are coming and they're picking up the card and they got their magnifying, their light out, and in their mind they're saying to themselves, "Oh, I'm just going to take this and crack it, improve it, and get a better grade on it." But I mean, I understand that because I talked about that and I've tried to do that many times, but I have to think on some of these, more popular cards that I'm not sure if they're even the grader that day has the ability to say, could be an 8 or a 9. Let's give this guy a 9. Like, I think it's a solid. It always becomes a solid 8 again. So
It's tough to say. I
yeah.
don't know the inner workings of PSA. So
Yeah. So, all right, moving on. So we get into the fall, right? Um, we notice that uh, the traffic at shows is changing. We notice that people really aren't paying more than 80 or 85% comps on cards. So at this point, you're like, I'm out of the shows. I'm not doing anything. I'm just selling all the stuff online because you're saying it makes sense to do it. And I'm still running off to shows every weekend and setting up. And, I say too, it's, it's the entertainment of being with people, being in the hobby, it's seeing the people. It's for me getting content, to create content. So it's the part and that's the part of the hobby I love the most, is going out and, either walking shows or setting up at shows. But we're into the football season. We're heavy into the football season. We don't see, uh, the values on too many things going up. If anything, we see those percentages falling down. What was it for you? What did you see as far as what you were selling online? Were things still being improved? Were you still being shocked about what your sales were, or are you like, I could see this hobby's taking a little bit of a dip?
So you were looking at football. I wasn't at that time. Like truthfully, like that. I think that was the big difference. And another thing too is the lull in that time period. Like you have these rookie quarterbacks coming out, and you don't have their cards out. Like
Yeah.
so. People are like, I want the new, like, always, everyone always wants the new rookies, right? Like, you've seen how crazy the Prism's been. Like, they should have
what?
been, they should have been released around then, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And here's two things. I know I just cut you right off. I apologize.
that's not good.
Here's two things. Yes, these cards should be released on time. This delaying everything is ridiculous. And I mean, who suffered from all this Panini and Fanatics stuff, right? We the people, we the
Yeah, for sure.
collector. I mean, now, they've got Prism hobby boxes out there, and I'm watching them being ripped open, and like there's vets, like people even in these groups, they're like, who is that? Like people don't even know who some of these players are because there's so many limited autos, limited people that can be signing in here. And I don't know what the price is. I mean, I think they're around $1,000 for a hobby box. I've probably watched 15 to 20 cases get ripped open. I haven't seen one card come out of a box that was worth more than $1,000 that would
Oh,
have covered that hobby box. I haven't seen one hobby box of all the cards that came out that could have covered the cost of that hobby box.
Oh,
So
I got a fun story then, if that's your experience, not mine. Here's what I did. So on Jumbo's Card Breakers, Jumbo's Card Break, like when first off the line came out, they were like 50 or 60 bucks a spot. So I think for like 5 boxes, I just bought 2 randoms, and I actually hit a couple cards that probably got my money. Nothing crazy, but like for Prism first off the line, I was like, why not, right?
yeah.
The break, I stop. Okay. Let me see if I can get their Instagram and show. You're going to see why I could not possibly have this card. This was the first break that I stopped joining of single box Prism first off the line. Sorry if that's. Obviously I can't have this. Sorry.
Is it a Falcon?
No, it's Jaden Daniels Black Shimmer 1 of 1. Okay.
Oh.
In the single box breaks. So I think that would buy a couple first off the line boxes.
But so you're saying, and I just want to go back because I just popped the calculator up here. You were saying there were $60 a pack. There's 12 packs in
a
there.
spot. No. Random teams. Random. This was also for first off the line.
Okay. All right. I misunderstood you.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're at almost 2K, 1920. All right. Yeah.
And this is for first off the line though, with all the shimmers and all the.
Yeah.
And look at that. This guy who bought a ton of spots and a ton of breaks. And when I went back to rewatch that break, because it was the last box. Like I bought spots the 1 box break before it in the 5 or like the 4 or 5 boxes before it, and I stopped because I didn't get anything like a banger, right? Like, if I did, I was gonna buy more spots of the next one. So that's like the ultimate miss, right? Like you're talking that. I mean, other than the finite 1 of 1, that's like the product hit, right? Like that or the Nebula, those 3, and so yeah, my experience is different. I should have just been more of a degen.
Yeah. I was in a break last night and I hit it was a divisional break. I had NFC West and the RPA was the Isaac Garendo Purple Power RPA numbered to 49. So I was pretty excited. Like it's the hit of the whole box. That was the banger in the box. And then when I went back and comped the card, I was like, are you kidding me? I mean,
what does that even go for?
Like $70 card. Come on. It's like $1,000 box.
What was your spot? What was the spot worth?
126.
So that card was just over half your spot.
Yeah.
And that was the hit of the break, right?
That was the hit of the break. There were a couple other numbered cards that came out of there from those teams out there, but still it was, and I know I'm taking a chance, right? And it's what I do, right? I'm not going to talk down about, I do all the time talk down, I know, but and people are probably screaming at their radio now, but I'm not going to talk talk, you know, down about repacks, right? But it's not something I ever did, even though that they're saying there's a guarantee, like you're going to get some of your money back,
Yeah, I
right?
get, yeah.
But I just I've never I thought to myself, if I'm gonna put my money out, I want to try to, I'm going to gamble. I'm going to take that chance that I'm going to hit that Jaden Daniels
Yeah.
black shimmer one of one, right? So like if I'm going to take the gamble, why not swing for the fences? Why would I say I'm gonna spend $126 and I'm guaranteed to get $60 back, right? But I could get two something
Yeah.
versus maybe I could hit a $10,000 card or get nothing. I would rather, that's why I play the side bets at the casino, right?
Yeah, but
That's why I'm playing the match the dealer and things like that.
it's so funny too when you hear about how angry people get at repackers too, when Panini's just doing it on a larger scale and worse return. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
How about instead of ripping a box of Prism, you rip a box of the repack and see what your percentage return is? I bet you on average it's way better.
Yeah.
Way better. You know what I'm saying? Like, or rip a case of the repack product, well, versus the case of Prism. I don't know. I mean, you could hit something crazy, but like, it's like people can single out a person or people that are doing a repack that's much smaller than something like Panini.
Yeah.
And it's like they just
And
get away with it.
People
Panini
love that
gets you in
stuff.
Target or in like online in a hobby box. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. They get you all over the place, but a repacker, God forbid, like it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the end of the year. I'm getting more set in my ways that I want because, and here's a couple of my thoughts looking at next year. Right now, I do not have a place at the National to set up. I do not have a booth. I do not have a table. I don't know what that is going to be like, but I am going to plan accordingly for myself, right? So my plan is to probably rip more stuff and then just grade those cards myself, right? Whether I hit big bangers, right, or I don't, there's still enough value in cards that I could grade myself and 2, 3, 4, 5x the card, right? If they do gem. And I'm having fun opening the boxes, right? Whereas in my mind right now, at the shows, like going to the shows. I set up at that Friday night show. I put a buying sign up, and then I looked at my guy Rich, who was next to me, and I said, "I just put the buying sign up, but I don't know what I'm buying." He said, "What are you buying?" I said, "I don't know. Anything that makes sense, right? Anything that's liquid and the price is right." But nobody's coming through the door. Most of these small shows, nobody's really coming through the door to sell their cards at 70%, right, or 75%. They all want, and if I walk through the door and I'm going to sell a card, I want 85% if I'm not on that side of the table, right? And that's probably what I'm going to get. Selling 85% is what I'm going to get, for selling at a show if I'm on this side of the table. So realistically, it used to be great. I used to show up to these shows, get there early, go around and buy a bunch of stuff. I could put them back in my case. I could resell them. I could hold them. I could do whatever. A lot of that just doesn't work anymore. And buying, dealers buying from dealers, it's a lot of that is just, it's really not working out as well as it used to. So, I talk about having a ton of cards at PSA. So in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I've got all these cards. I'm going to grade them. I did a lot with the WNBA Select. I did a lot with the Don Russ football. I've done some stuff with Prism. I have this older WNBA stuff. I have a lot of the college stuff that I'm grading as well, the college women's basketball stuff. We've got the Prism Blasters coming out. I'll probably try to buy a case of those to rip those, and the not only the Prism for WNBA, but Prism for the for NFL as well, right? And maybe just go on a grading rampage, and that's my, that turns into my lane for now. What I don't sell, I put in singles boxes, and what I don't grade, I put in the singles boxes, and the rest I send off for grading and I sell them in a few months when they come back. So as you look at the end of the year, and I know you've been doing some other stuff, you found some what we would call honey holes, right? Where you're able to, find some good product that you can, move at a decent price. Looking forward to next year compared to what this year was, what are your thoughts? What are your plans? What's the outlook? What do you think you're going to be doing?
First, I think it's important to note that me and you are at completely different stages of life. So, like, your plan, which you've said many times, correct me if I'm wrong, is largely based off the entertainment factor, right? Like,
100%.
right, yeah. And I think that's important to acknowledge that, because, like, after we just talked about how bad of an investment, ripping these boxes is and stuff like that, you're just like, so my plan is I'm gonna rip everything and grade it. Like the next topic.
But see, here's the difference. And people can tell me I'm wrong, they could tell me I'm right. Like, I don't mind ripping these blaster boxes. Like, you get a case of blaster boxes for like $700, right?
Yeah.
And you pull a Jaden Daniels silver out of one of those things, you've recouped all your money. If I'm go out and I buy a case of Prism hobby boxes, I just think there's so much risk there that the entertainment value for me is the opening the box, hoping to get, like everybody else, you're hoping you're going to pull something great out of there, but knowing it's like, here it is in a nutshell. It's like getting ready to go to the casino, right? What are you thinking? Oh, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. You get in the car and you're thinking the whole way there, oh, how am I going to spend all this money I'm about to win, right? And then you come out of there like Eeyore, like, what the hell just happened, right?
Yeah.
Where did all my money go, right? But it's the chance you take. Does that person never go back to the casino? No, they say, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have went in and bet all my money on black on one spin on the roulette. Maybe I should go to the blackjack table and do $15 hands, or maybe it's that we just keep saying, like, we like the entertainment. Let's figure out how it works for us, how it works into our own budget.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that before I go on and say what I've been doing.
Yeah, 100%.
It's important. And like, as I say this, and as you say this, and as people listen to this, everyone's situation is so different.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't want someone to be here and like listen to what you do or what I do and say that's exactly what I should do, because like I think me and you we've feed ideas off of each other. Some have been good, I think. Some have not been good. I remember your first experience with consignment after hearing what I did went horrible, and you were like, "Dude, I think I owe money," and I'm like, I am so sorry. So, but it's important, and like. I bought a Trinity Rodman Night Moves card, and I lost some money, and I sold it to you, and you probably lost some money now from buying that card.
Are you kidding me? I still have it.
I'm saying, well, yeah, I guess it's not actualized, but is it still worth like $200? The Night Moves PSA 10?
I have no idea. It's my PC.
You have like 5 of them.
So?
No, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, like
I think it's a pop 9, and I have more than half of the pop calculator, right? But it's like
you're curbing the market.
Yeah, I don't care. It's my PC, right? And if I go to a show tomorrow and I see one sitting there, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to put it with the rest of them, and it's what I want. It's
And I aspire to eventually be able to do that. I don't feel like I'm in a position where, like with my family starting up and all of that I can do that yet. Yeah. Like. The YouTube channel Chasing Cardboard. Some people like him, some people don't. That guy.
Yeah.
I'm like a poor man's version of that. Like that's what I'm doing. No, for real though. That is what I'm doing. Okay. And it's like I don't think that guy's ripping anyone off. Do you? I don't. He's going in there and buying a bunch of good stuff and all the crap too. Like, and I'm doing that. So it's like, it's also like, am I getting a good deal on some good stuff? Yeah. But then I'm stuck with like stuff that everyone's stuck with,
Yeah.
But that's part of it. Yeah. So that's kind of what I've been doing, is buying the collections. I've met some unique individuals along the way. I know you've heard some of my stories, some not suitable for work, some suitable, but like it's all part of it. And I don't really see my avenue changing unless I find something that is more efficient and has a better return. Right. So, like, when I'm buying some of these collections, sometimes I'm buying stuff with the idea that I'm going to grade it, but not all the time. Like, if you talk about what was I doing like a year ago, I wasn't buying a card that I didn't think I had a chance to grade. And that was really limiting, because as grading becomes more popular, I feel like anyone now, you see a nice card that's not graded, you reach out. What's wrong with it? Like, that's
Well,
that's the
yeah,
first thing. What's
you
wrong
know
with
it's either visibly damaged or it's already been graded and cracked out, right? I mean, that's
120% comp, sir, it's going to PSA tomorrow. Like, it's like, all right, all right, man, sure it is. Like, what's wrong with it? Like,
yeah.
and so I felt like, while you can still grade things, don't get me wrong, you absolutely, and I still do, and I will continue to. I don't know, for me, if I don't think I, like, with the time for return, that to make that my sole thing, I don't think it's worth it for me. So, like, building relationships with higher volume buyers who, is important. So, like, I have some stuff that I'll sell to some certain people, and then I have some stuff that I'll consign, and we can go around the gamut. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I'm pretty sure I'll be staying with that recipe, if you will. And then hopefully I'll continue to build capital and build capital and build capital, and then look to see where I can eventually, like, put stuff away for a PC, Like, I said, I was going to talk about it earlier. Something I aspire to do is to put together a collection of every year of like Ted Williams playing years, each
Playing day.
card.
Yep.
Like, that's something I'd really like to do, but like PSA 1 of like the 39 play ball is so expensive. Like I can't maybe I'll have to work backwards, but like, it's just yeah, that's that, like, for me, that's gonna be a lifelong process to be like, to do all of that, and like, low grade is not cheap, at least for someone like me,
Yeah.
But by going through the process that I have been doing, I've been able to build capital to buy bigger collections. And I know you've been seeing some of the stuff that, like, when we talk and it's like, hey, look what I just picked up. I'm sure you've seen the quality and quantity, together has improved of what I'm buying. Like,
Yep.
that.
Do you ever pick anything up and say to yourself, man, I should just put this away because I think this has the ability? And is there anything that you actually just stash away and say, I'm just going to hold on to that? Or
like, I've done that. So when you say stash away, like, again, because everything I'm doing, it has a purpose, right? Like,
yeah.
So talking about stashing certain things away, I have some cards that will be going on auction soon that were like nice Kelsey and Mahomes rookies that are now going to be auctioned, that I've had for a few months.
So you're saying you think my Chiefs are going to three-peat? That's what you're leaning in towards?
Maybe, but they'll be sold for wild card weekend when they're not even playing. So, like, but again, it's everything has a purpose. It's like that mitigating risk. It's like, do I want to buy Kelsey and Mahomes card, and then they lose, and then it's just. Yeah. I mean, obviously not Mahomes, like, but still, even a little bit, there'll be a little like,
Yeah, no, 100%. So I do want to share my my favorite pickup of the year, right? And one of the things that I said last year, on goal setting, right? Goal setting for next year, right? So last year, one of my goals was to get a nice Mahomes rookie card. And I talked about it a number of times, and I put feelers out to people, and a lot of those cards came in at just astronomical prices that I just couldn't get close to. And then in the fall, I think it may have been September, October, November, I ended up finding this at his show. It's a 2017 Panini Contenders Optic Patrick Mahomes Rookie of the Year Contenders Auto, and it's numbered to 25. So it was, my goal setting. I was able to get this card. Um, and if you're on YouTube, I was just holding it up. Um, and I think next year I would like to try to keep that same, you know, find a partner for this one, right? Just to try to do it again. It's interesting when I think about a lot of these quarterbacks that their rookie year, has been falling in these last, like since 2017. Um, that probably in a couple of years, a lot of these cards like Contenders and Prism and National Treasures and things like that, those sets will be long gone. They won't be. And I almost feel like these could be, hold more value just being not only low numbered, which I think is super important, just getting anything numbered, especially in a rookie, but um, being Panini, right? Because they're what's it after next year? It'll be the Fanatics. They won't be.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they won't be doing this anymore. So yeah. So when I talk about stashing, I mean that's what I say in my mind. These things, to add to, um, you know, again, you're right. It all comes down to where you are in your life and what you're doing. But yeah, it's definitely it's what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, I mean, and like you talking about targeted, like uh if I was to take anything and put it away, it would be like uh MJ, Mahomes,
Mm.
Messi, like that. The card you showed though, like that's something that I would see as like a really good thing to have. I mean, for the PC, just well, for one, you're a Chiefs fan. Like, I'm not gonna go out and buy Tua because I'm a Dolphins fan. Like
Oh, but
for
if you are,
one,
I've got a few here.
yeah, I bet everyone I tell that I'm a Dolphins fan too at a card show, I was like, oh, look at all this Tua. It's like no, thank you, no, I don't. I wanted Herbert. I wanted Herbert in that draft. Don't try to pawn your Tuas off on me, my man.
Yeah.
Like, so like. Yeah, like for one, you're a Chiefs fan. You're in the midst of going on a three-peat. Oh, and to boot, he may go down as the best quarterback ever. May, right? Like so it is a PC for you, but also it's like if you're ever going to talk about investing in something, like that's pretty good. Like
Yeah.
like so yeah. That's a sick card, by the way.
Thanks.
How long have you said in October?
Yeah, just I just had this for a few months. Yeah.
How'd that come about?
I got it at a show. I had purchased a CJ Stroud downtown card at a very good price, and I sent it to grading, and it came back a 9. And it just so happened that there were a couple high sales on eBay of that exact card, and I had that card with me while I was at a show, and I saw this card, and didn't have a price on it, and said he was looking more, he would do cash and trade, but probably would have had to have the right stuff, and I pulled that Stroud downtown out, and then he's all right, I could look at a few more things, and yeah, there was a Stroud downtown, a Burrow auto, and some cash that ended up getting me this card.
I mean, yeah, I'm looking at a Stroud PSA 9 just finished on auction at $1,020.
Yeah, so I mean, they were doing like 1,500. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, I mean Burrow's great, right? Like, but like moving like that's awesome. That's a great. I mean, that sounds like a no-brainer. Like, that's awesome.
That was the story I told where we had the whole deal. We had the cards on the table, the cash on the table, and then he picked the Mahomes back up again, and he was looking at it, and I'm like, he's just going to say, like, I always talk about making a deal like this is did you want this pile or that pile?
Right, you set them all out. Yeah.
Yeah. And when he did that, and then he picked this Mahomes back up again, I said, "Oh, that's it. He's never doing this
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
He decided he'd rather have the Mahomes, right?" And then he's looked at me. He said, "It's hard to part with it, but I really want those other cards." And I was like, "Oh my god, let's do this." Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So you talked about your favorite pickup. I would like to talk about the most unique experience I had in the hobby for this year. And I know I've talked to you about it, was in one of my collection buyouts. And anyone who, is follows me on Instagram, or, seen my Instagram at Zips Cards, I'm sure you saw the card. It was a 1 of 1 black XRC PSA 10 of James Cook. James Cook, great player, I think. Or not even great. He's a very good player.
Had a really good year. Had a
Really good
very
year.
had a very slow rookie year, and was kind of people were on
Yeah.
the fence with him, and
By,
really showed
yeah.
up this year.
By no means is a hobby darling, though, right? Like, so the seller who, the person I bought from had got it in a repack. He didn't really know how to value it. He knew what he paid for it. And truthfully, I didn't know how to value it. And it was such a large collection deal. I kind of went with it. And we set a price, and I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot. Why not? We'll try. And so after some research,
And it was a PSA 10, right?
Yeah. But people say the 101 PSA 10 thing doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know, because this was uncharted waters for me. I've never, like, I've had 101s before, but like, when you talk about significant rookie cards for people, right? I think the XRC is a very significant rookie card, especially when you talk about the 101 of it, right? Like, it's the first. So like, if you were to be in baseball, it almost makes me think of like a first Bowman Superfractor.
Yeah.
I kind of relate it to that. What do you think about that? Because you XRC guy.
Yeah, I love the XRCs, and they're their very first rookie card.
Yeah.
They come out the draft year,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're redemptions the year before in select, right? And first off the line select.
Yeah. So like a Mahomes XRC is a 2016, right? It's always the year before, because it shows up as a redemption, and they show up as, QB1, QB2, things like that, or RB1, RB2. And a PSA 10 and an XRC always fetches good money. Like, if you go and you look up, which I know you did, and you look up, especially any of the quarterbacks, the XRC cards fetch good money.
Yeah. So in the process of trying to find a value for this thing, of course I looked to see if the card ever sold before. I didn't see anything, right? Like, for the exact card, I didn't see anything. Then I looked up James Cook 101s. I saw like his NT Shield did like $5,000. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't know how to relate that to this, though. Like, clearly the NT Shield is, way better. Way better. And then I just typed in, I was like, okay, XRC 1-of-1s. Just, select XRC 1-of-1s just to see what's sold. And I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. I saw Bijan Robinson, who is undoubtedly better than James Cook in the hobby, and probably in the NFL too. His in a PSA 6 did like 2,700. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I saw a Jameson Williams do 1,250. And a lot of people felt like that was a very similar player. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people felt that. And then I saw Sam Laporta do $2,000. I saw like a Debo do like $4,000 or $5,000, like something high. But Debo has quite a following. He's been around, whatever.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I don't know. I saw the Bijan in a 6. I was like, might as well shoot for the stars and then accept offers, because I feel like out of all cards, like, if you're gonna be high on something, being high on something like that is more understandable than like asking a crazy amount on like a normally transacted card. So I just threw it a bunch of places for like 2,500 or best offer, which I thought was high. I did. And then I got in some offers. I had some people like, oh, if that card, if you're trying to sell that card for over $1,000, you're, that's crazy. And I was like, oh, I was like,
Yeah.
you could be
Yeah.
right.
The
I was like,
haters,
I was like,
always
you could be.
haters.
I was like, you could be right. I really don't know. You know what ended up being like sealing the deal though, like of comparable sales of what me and the person like talking about this card, the guy who eventually bought it, was he saw an Origins booklet recently in December. Origins booklet, which I feel like Origins kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Not the
Low,
greatest, and
low
even more
end.
so a booklet. People,
Yeah.
not a lot of people like the booklet, so that did $2,000.
Was that a 101?
Yeah, 101.
Okay.
It was. I'm sorry. It was a Shield booklet. I'm sorry. It was a
Okay.
Shield 101 book. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I ended up selling it. I'll say the price. I don't care. I sold it for $17.25. Which was a great return for me, and but also I could have left a ton of meat on the bone. I don't know. I think that's one of the things where looking back, like for me, it was just a number that was like, cool, okay, I don't have to, send it off to consignment and wait on the auction and this and that and whatever.
Yeah.
I was making enough money on that specific sale that I was like, that's whatever, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But God, the Bills go on a run. James Cook goes crazy in the playoffs. What is that card worth?
Yeah.
For real, like it could be, because in the past,
But for you, you're fine. I mean, you did well enough on that card that if he did go on a run and you saw that card come up and sell on eBay for 25 or 2,600, you'd be like, oh, hey, Ken, check that out. But it's not like you'd be like, oh, what a mistake I made, right? Yeah.
No, because like it's just, I feel like anyone could do that. Like that happened to me one time, and then I had a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander National Treasures card out of 25. It was his RPA, and I sold it for like 2,500 less than what it did. Like the same exact copy did like a week later, and I was like, I made money, but it was just like, wow, I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, you know what? Good for that guy. Like, why should I be mad? That's just envy and jealousy. That's not doing me any good, man. Like, I made my money. If I can sell to someone who can then make money again, that just creates a better relationship for both people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's what the hobby's all about, right? I mean, that's really what, especially if you're in it, like you're in it, like it's a side hustle, it's a bit of a business, right? But as long as you can, treat people right and be as honest as you can, people will come back, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the way that's why I've emulated my life, right? That just try to be the best person you can be, treat everybody the best you can, and people will treat you well back. When I do have to say, with this, with the social media and things like that, where I see people attacking other people on there, and I'm like, oh, like it drives me crazy sometimes, like, and especially and what made me think of it was like, as soon as like, I could hardly put things for sale on Facebook anymore, because no matter in some of those groups, I put something up and you have to put a price on it, which is the worst thing to begin with for me anyways, right? And you have to put a price up, and the first person's like, oh, laughing my off, you think you're going to get that for that, right? And then I'm like, what? And then the next guy's like, oh, is it still available? I'll take it. So it just, but there's always somebody jumping in, and they got to hate on whatever. I mean, you could put it in there and ask 50 cents for. I saw something the other day. Somebody said, look, I'm gonna give this away for free. I just want to pay it forward. I ended up with extras of these. First person to comment, and this guy jumps in and says, why would you give it away for free? That's worth like $40. And somebody is like, Jesus, the guy's trying to give something away for free, and you're still giving him crap about it.
And like that's something that's tough too, is like you see a lot of that, and like for a lot of people in the hobby, it's an escape, right? Like it's their space, but like see a lot of that toxic energy come over sometimes, and you just wonder like what else is going on that's making people react in so outrageous ways. And
we all walk a different path,
Sure.
we have no idea what paths other people are on and where they're walking and what they're going through, but as long as we like I said, as long as you just try to be the best person you can and treat people well, I could tell you from experience, it comes back.
Sure. And what I personally love about the hobby is it's a very unique hobby in the respect that like you can make it so many ways of what you want to make it. Like for me, it's a side hustle, but like my favorite thing about doing this is my passion of sports. Like you know how there's like some people who really just transact it, who are like they don't even know what team this guy plays on, and they're just, it's a number. Like no, like I know all this. Like I played college baseball. Like I am a fanatic. I beat your butt in both of the fantasy leagues that we're in.
Yeah.
I had to say that. Sorry.
Oh, me?
Like, yeah. Both the leagues that we are in, I am in the championship, and you are in dead last, Ken.
It wasn't
You're doing
I
well.
wasn't in dead last in that 75 league. I just beat somebody to be in, I don't know, 6th place, 5th place, 6th place.
Okay.
It's, I'll tell you what, it's that freaking sleeper app. I can't take that. The 2 teams I'm in sleeper were the 2 teams I didn't make the playoffs this year.
Hey, you know what though? I will say in our dynasty league,
We're gonna have the sports card lessons league. There we go, next year. And
I'm
then
in.
all right, you'll get in, and we'll let some of the listeners in, and then we'll go from there. We'll
Can we do
figure
a
it out.
dynasty? Can we do a sports card lessons dynasty? Or are you done with dynasty now? Have you? I feel like you would like that. I mean,
You know
I
what?
want to say one thing. I want to say one thing.
You're gonna
are last place in dynasty, but that is purposeful and that is smart.
Yeah, and if we're gonna talk about fantasy, if you could fast forward 30 seconds or a minute, right? But yeah, so here's the one thing about Dynasty, which like I used to play Madden and stuff back in the late 90s, early 2000s on the computer, and it was the same thing. You drafted a team, and everybody drafted a team. So it was kind of like fantasy, but it was Dynasty. And then the draft would come and you would draft your player, so you would draft young and then build along. The problem with in my mindset in doing that, this dynasty actually lasts the whole season, where that dynasty used to be over in weeks. That season used to be over in weeks, and you could draft again. And one of the things I lost out, being as good as I am at fantasy, jumping into a dynasty league, I went out and I got all these rookie players. So even though I'm like, at the bottom of the barrel, everybody in the league is trying to trade me to get all these young people, right?
Valuable assets.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of time before and it could be as quick as next year that flip, that switch flips and I'm up on top. I just didn't go out and get the Jamar Chases and the people that are really tearing up the league now, but I have the Bucky Irvins, and you know what I'm saying. So it's a future, like and I think now, even with drafting the right people in the right situation is so important. Not drafting the best player, but drafting the player with the best situation. So,
dude, that's so fun. It's so true, because I remember like when we were talking, and like everyone, Marv was the consensus one, and that's who you got last year. And like if I was one, I would have drafted him too. It would have like everything pointed to that. But I had 4, and I got Xavier Worthy, and you were like, fast guy. We don't know. And to be fair, you're totally right. There's a lot of data to be like, I don't know how good he's going to be. He's like, I didn't even start him in the championship this week, because like still figuring it out, but like he's starting to look good. But that's part of dynasty, is like you have to wait on these guys. Like you do. So, and it's the situation, right? Like, very well said.
100%. All right. So as we finish up here, anything you want to put out there for next year? Anything you want? Any goal setting? Any predictions for next year in the hobby, or anything? Or are you happy just to finish out the year without?
That's a tough one, man. Like goal setting. Wow. Okay. I know you're putting me on the spot. Do you want to go first and give me a second? Because I would like to think about this for like
think about it for a second.
Okay.
I mean, as far as me, I talked about getting another similar Mahomes card here. and you know, I'm gonna set one of the goals I've set for the last 2 years, right, is to complete the Hunger Games card set that I have. There's 10 cards and I have 5 of them. And I've done everything I can to locate the other 5 that I'm missing. I know they're out there somewhere, and I've been in groups, and I know some people who have them, who I check in with, every couple months, like, hey, just checking in, see if you want to move that card. And one of the guys that had the Katniss card, he's put it up for like $20,000 on eBay. So, I mean,
You might as well just do the Hunger Games for the card.
yeah. So
That's
who
20
knows? But
grand.
but I'm gonna put, and I know that's me. I
Yeah.
mean, it's something that I want. It would be my, for my own PC stuff.
Yeah.
And as far as the hobby, look, goal setting is to get space back at the National. No matter what way I could get it. I've been on waiting lists. I've talked to people. I've messaged with people. People know that I'm anxious, that I really want to get there, but that's not enough. It's following the rules, and who knows if they're going to change up the rules, or I'm going to be able to get a spot this year. But that's another goal, right? With this hobby, I mean, there's a few things that you really want to do, and to be able to set up at the National, especially like for me being wanting to be a dealer, that above everything else, that's kind of a goal. Getting to a few of the bigger shows too. So I've already booked for Culture Collision in Atlanta. I want to do a Nashville show this year, and I'd like to, maybe go out and do the Burbank show. It's not Burbank anymore. I think it's like West. It's called something else now, but I'm going to refer to it as Burbank right now. But maybe go out to California and do one of those shows, like Dallas or something. And I mention this every year, getting to new shows, and like I did it this year, but I wasn't probably as good as I could be. So this year I'm definitely going to nail down a couple shows, make the reservation, pull the trigger on it, and get to them.
All right. And thank you for giving me that time. I got a couple. So thank you.
Good.
And I think those are all really good. And I would be really excited to hear about your travels, especially going to some of those bigger shows. That would be very fun to listen to at the very least. And I'm sure for like the card business side of it would be great to meet more people, make connections, grow everything. One kind of satirical is to get my big Caitlin Clark, Kate Martin dual redemption processed, because that's a monster. It's the true gold.
Yeah.
And this card has made me focus more on WNBA.
Kate Martin's a little busy moving right now, so when she gets time, she might go in and autograph that card for you.
I know. So that's the first one, is get that card and then see what the heck happens there. But other than that, I would like to get to a place where I do feel like I could buy like a nice MJ insert, a nice Messi rookie, something like that to then stash and put away. For me, I've been thinking about this for a while now. I'd also like to try to accumulate some of those cards that I think could grow in the next 18 years to then cash in and pay for, well, if my son decides to go to college, pay for that. I think that'd be kind of a fun, like, little side alternative asset, you know what I mean? Growth sort of thing. And it'd be fun, it'd be interactive, and I could, we could do it with him eventually. And then also for me, I just want to continue to be able to buy the bigger collections, because obviously the more money you're able to spend, the more money you're able to make. I would like to get to a point where maybe I make like a 5-figure deal this year. That's something I've never done. I don't mean trade either. I mean, like, I want to be able to pay someone 5 figures for their collection and it actually be worth it, right? Like that's part of it too. So I think that would be a goal for me. I'm not quite there yet. Most of the deals I've been doing, honestly, have been like in the 4 figures, like the lower 4 figures is kind of the collection buyouts I've been doing. but I'm slowly progressing and getting
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I guess for me, that would be the goal and the process of building that way. And it's so funny with the consignment too, because I have all these cards at grading and I forget they're there, and then I get a notification of like, oh, these have arrived. These are getting posted, and it's like, oh yeah, I sent like 100 cards out to get consigned. I totally forgot they existed.
Yeah.
But just scaling that up, continuing to just press on and on is like, I want to send 1,000 cards out to consignment. Like I just want to scale that whole system and process up too.
Yep. Yep.
And then there is another goal that I think me and you have, but I don't know if we're going to talk about it just yet. But
no, we're not going to talk about it now. That's going to come in another week or so.
Cool.
Good. All right, kid. Well, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Tell everybody they have questions if they want to, yell at you, or they want tell them where they can find you.
Well, I guess you can find me a few places if you want to listen to someone yelling at me. But if you want to talk to me, it'd be at zips.cards on Instagram.
Nice. All right. Happy New Year. And we'll look forward to having you back on again.
All righty. Sounds good, Ken.
Take care. Thanks for coming on.
Bye-bye.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.